Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Pete's CD and LP World. Today, it's another episode of Give It Another Spin, and today we are having a review of Deep Purple's 1996 album, Purpendicular. And I first got this album shortly after it came out. I had heard the lead single off of it called Vavoom, Ted the Mechanic, and I thought it was awesome. I got this album shortly after. I think I listened to it a couple times and I was not that impressed with it and sort of just put it away and hardly ever listened to it again. So I decided to give it another listen and I was pleasantly surprised. The album has 12 songs listed, but there's actually a uncredited hidden it's actually not a hidden track, it's actually a separate track on the CD called Don't Hold Your Breath. And going through the songs here, this album is very good, but it doesn't sound too Deep Purple-ish, if that makes sense. Surprisingly, not a lot of organ on this album. It sort of complements the song rather than drives them. Where I felt like when Ritchie Blackmore was in the band, he was sort of complimenting John Lord. Well, did I mention that this is the first one with Steve Morse, so definitely went through a big change with adding him. And he's actually a little subdued too. He plays a lot of great guitar on this album, but it's not what you expect from him. There's not too much shredding, not too much over the top playing, but at the same time, there's not much in similarity between him and Ritchie Blackmore. He has a much more I don't want to say processed tone, but it's definitely more I don't know what the word is. Whereas Ritchie, you can just hear his guitar and amp, whatever he's using. It's just, you could tell he doesn't use any effects processors. He sort of just wings it on the solos. Whereas Steve Morse definitely plans out his solos and has a lot of actual guitar parts. You know, Blackmore didn't have too many riffs other than the main riffs of the song, whereas it seems like Steve Morse on here has little interludes here and there. Going through some of the songs, Loosen My Strings, pretty good song. Soon Forgotten, probably my least favorite song on the album. Sometimes I Feel Like Screaming. Cascades, I'm Not Your Lover. The Aviator. The Aviator has more of an acoustic feel to it. Almost has like an Irish influence on it. Rose's Cantina. Castle Full of Rascals. A Touch Away. Hey Cisco. Somebody Stole My Guitar. The Purpendicular Waltz, which when I saw that, I thought it was going to be a cool instrumental, and it's actually just a regular song. But whatever. And then, like I said, the bonus hidden song is Don't Hold Your Breath. And that was a popular thing to do in the 90s, is extend the last track of the CD and include a hidden song or two. This one, no, it's actually a separate track, so it's not really hidden. I don't know why they just didn't list it. It's kind of like, doesn't make sense. But some of the songs they played live from this album, like Rose's Cantina, Hey Cisco, I think are some of the worst songs on the album. In fact, that's the main problem of this album, if there is any, that it's too long. All of these songs are around 5 minutes. There are some that are even 7, so the whole album itself is about 65 minutes. And this is at the time in the 90s when bands were just filling up CD capacity to the max. And sometimes it doesn't work like it should. And if they had cut this album by 3 songs, I think it would have been a really strong song. If they had cut Soon Forgotten, Rose's Cantina, and Hey Cisco, I think this would have been a really, really good album. It's actually surprising that it didn't do better. I know this was the 90s, but I remember it being played on classic rock radio here in, I guess the New York stations played it. And looking at the set list for this tour, they put out a live album from this tour, I guess more recently in the last 10 years. And like I said, they did play a few songs from it, but surprisingly it's some of the not so great ones. Another thing that bogs down this album is, like I said, not only too many songs, I think, but it's just the length of the songs. The songs themselves seem to go on one too many choruses, one too many extra fade out instrumental parts. If they had trimmed these songs 30 seconds to a minute, some of them, it would have made a more concise album, because there's not too many good rockers on here. A lot of mid-tempo stuff on here. There's a couple songs that definitely sound like Perfect Strangers era, House of the Blue Light era. Vavoom, Ted Mechanic, to me doesn't sound like Deep Purple, but it's a great song nonetheless. Probably the best song on the album. And I think also what's missing from this is sort of that bit of European influence or European metal that usually is in Deep Purple. And it's so strange that by Ritchie Blackmore leaving the band, it actually changed how John Lord's involvement was. You would have thought he would have been just as involved or even more so. So in many ways, this does not sound like a Deep Purple album, but there are songs that do have that, like I said, Perfect Strangers, House of the Blue Light sound. So overall, out of 5 stars, I'd probably give this album a good 3 stars. Like I said, with some trimming of the songs and actually getting rid of a couple songs, it could have been a really good album. But overall, I would say I recommend it, and I definitely like it a lot better than I listened to it when I first got it. This is probably the first time last night that I listened to this album fully since I got it in the 90s. So if you have this album, leave some comments below and we'll discuss. And until then, I'll see you later.